Hey everyone. Tonight I just chopped up a bunch of these pieces of firewood. Those are pretty big logs, but I realized since I've been burning for a couple months now, wood only, that cut in half or thirds, big pieces actually burn better. They burn longer. So with having the catalytic stove, you load a bunch of these bigger pieces in, you don't have to touch it for like 20 hours, which is very awesome. What you're seeing here, that's like 2 weeks of firewood. That's a very efficient stove. I think it's about time I do a little review on this Harbor Freight log splitter. I've been using this thing for about 6 months. I bought their 2-year warranty, so if it does happen to break in any way, and I have been abusing this kinda, I have so far this year split probably 4 cords of firewood, which is 1 cord of firewood is like 4 times that pile you just saw. And this thing is still going. Harbor Freight, I do believe it is worth getting their warranty. It was only $30. This item here was about 150, and a reason I got the warranty is because if it breaks, you can just keep bringing it back and they will honor it. Harbor Freight's warranty is actually through them, so if you break it, you bring it right in, and they'll give you another if it's in stock, or they will, bring it back when they actually have one in stock. Now, warranties from like Walmart, they do it through a third party, usually Allstate. One time I had an item from them break, so I called Allstate hoping to get it replaced. Allstate said, "We only replace it if you can prove the company didn't replace it." And guess what? The company replaced it, not a single hassle. So that means getting the warranty was completely useless. But Harbor Freight is really good with their warranties, so that's why I went ahead and got it. So this thing works really good. It has a lot of power. I'm going to show you myself splitting a few after we go grab a few more logs out of the woods. So this thing here, one modification I had to make that I should note is, if you look right here, when I first bought it, there is nothing to stop this from sliding down, from just sliding right out. So I put this on temporary zip tie, didn't really work. Filled it with hot glue, not a problem since. If you have a metal drill bit, you could just drill through it, put a bolt, that solves it. It didn't come with any kind of rubber gasket or anything to jam it in there. That's one thing I just want to mention. So this is a 10-ton log splitter. I am actually thinking about getting the electric 5-ton log splitter from Harbor Freight. That's about $300. I'm hoping that'll make more use, or that'll really help out, and this thing will just be put away for power outages. Plus, I can easily throw this in the back of the car and bring it on camping trips. This would be pretty helpful. But honestly, on a camping trip, we're not going to be like mass splitting wood, so probably just bring an axe. Some of the logs I'm splitting here, it would take forever and be backbreaking to do with an axe, because some of them are, these are some of the biggest logs tonight that I've ever split with this. Some of them are 18 or 2 feet in diameter. And this thing doesn't really have a problem. Now you see it has 2 speeds. If you see, I don't know what the exact name for this is, but I'm going to call it, this piston right here is much bigger than this one. This one right here goes really fast. You do them both to move this up to the log. Then you keep doing this one, and when this one gets difficult, this one is much easier to crank it through. Very nice. It has wheels in the back, so you see I just bring it over to the edge of the garage so the wood chips and snow stay outside, pick it up by the handle, roll it back in. Now, this thing can be backbreaking to pick up the entire thing to put it in your car, like when I bought it. The employees helped me bring it into the car, but this thing, it is pretty heavy. I'd say it's got to be close to 150 pounds, maybe more. And it's very helpful if you have smaller logs. If you have a spacer like this, I can jam it like this, or like this for smaller logs, because this thing only reaches to about here. So sometimes you can't crank it through smaller logs. Sometimes I need smaller logs for like my camping stove. But I purposely bought a big wood stove so I can throw in 24-inch pieces. I think the limit is like 22-inch. So if I have a log that's like less than 6 inches in diameter, sometimes I don't even split it. I just throw the whole round piece in there. But bigger logs, I cut them into halves or thirds, sometimes fourths if they're too big. And I've been having a real good time I have not got bored with this. I feel like it's pretty entertaining processing my own firewood since I have dozens of dead trees. To be honest, I have a friend coming over in the next few weeks. He's going to hang out here at my place for like a week or so straight. He's going to help me clean up the entire forest. He's a tree cutting guy. Used to work alongside, if you ever see the orange trucks around New England. And he's certified to train people in using different types of what do you call it? Well, he's certified to cut down trees. The word I'm looking for, I don't know what it is, but I remember one time he brought me up in the trees, put on the boots with the big spikes, taught me how to put it around, because you always make sure, before you disconnect one safety line, the next one's connected. He showed me how to do it, and once you're up there, you can zip up and down. It's so much fun. So I really like that log splitter. If you saw my other video a little while back, I did a pretty good job in here organizing this garage. And you guys in the comments were right. Something that I may never use, something I haven't touched in like a year, I just got rid of all kinds of stuff because it's not worth the clutter, the headache of not being able to find things. I threw out all kinds of things. I also had so many plumbing and HVAC tools for flaring pipes, making the fittings and stuff. I just picked them up probably on the side of the road at some point for free. I definitely never bought those, and I'll probably never use it. I'm not into HVAC, and all my plumbing around here, I do with PEX pipes, so that stuff's above my head. Right here, organize a lot of the tools. I don't know how long those clips are going to last. If they fail, I'm just going to jam 2 nails in crooked, and that would do the same job. But I bought them because they're cheap. See these hooks? They're not the strongest. See how they flex quite a bit, but they do hold. You're only going to break them if you abuse them. Maybe they'll break over a few years. Those are from Dollar Tree. $1.25, you get 4 of them, and it comes with the screws. It even comes with 1 extra screw, and it was good because I dropped one behind the oil tank, and I can't reach it. So that was good to organize quite a few things. I cleaned up. If you remember, I had a bunch of boxes stacked on the oil tank. Threw some light things in the attic. Definitely light things. Sometime I want to get up in the attic and reinforce it, because this, I literally can't get up there. I think I would break this 2x4 the way it's held up there. It flexes so much. I think I'm going to screw here, bring it up there, and screw again, like beams to hold it up. Because look, there's only 2x4s the whole span. I'm going to try to beef that up sometime. I'm going to buy more wood, and maybe I can reinforce that. I had a bunch of Tupperware bins in here, got rid of those. You see everything on the floor? This right here is all going to donation. I have not used that electric chainsaw in years. It's pretty impractical for me because that one, it has a cord. It's not a battery one. I also don't really like the battery ones. I used one once that someone had because I didn't bring my own saw, and the battery seemed to go every 15 minutes. You had to click another one in, and by the time the second battery died, the other one wasn't charged yet, so I'm not going to get into that. I just bought a new gas one over there. It's that big Husqvarna one. I finally bought a commercial chainsaw because the other 2 I have here are more residential ones. They have tiny teeth, 40 cc's. That other one there has a giant engine, which is a 60 cc. It has the bigger teeth, so it'll go through the wood like 3 times as fast. See how that oil spilled? I threw the electric one up top here. It leaked all over the place because I had it over on that wall for like 3 years. I bought that 3 years ago when I first got this place. In this place, a giant tree fell down when I first got it, and at that point, I wasn't doing very good with money because I spent like almost all my money on the auction to buy this place. I bought this place on auction.com, and now that everything's fixed years later, I'm happy with it. But I don't know if I ever want to use auction.com again. There was zero disclosure, and this house had like, oh my God, it had like 50 grand worth of damage to it, and most of it I did myself. If I had to hire someone, it would have been so much more. It took me 3 years to come up with the funds to finally do that, but no, just to just to get by, I bought that. It was like a $50 Harbor Freight chainsaw. It worked well. Don't get me wrong, it worked well, but you needed an extension cord for it. And I think the part that oils the chain sitting in here, somehow it rotted. So when I finally stood it back up flat, it leaked all over the ground all over the oil. So this is going in a donation bin, and if someone wants to fix it, they can. I'm not going to even bother. It's a $50 chainsaw. Down here is a box. It's full of all kinds of screws and nails I know I'm never going to use. Like over here, you see, these I put screws in that I'm actually going to use. Those were filled with miscellaneous ones, so I dumped them all into a box and someone can go through it. Yep, only things that I think I would use in the near future I kept, because I was actually kind of hoarding tools, because anytime I'd find them on the side of the road for years, I can't help but take them. No longer. Look at this. Maybe someone would want this. These things, replacement ones, go for like $50. This is a Tesla hubcap. I found that thing 3 years ago. I found it while draining a flooded street. I put it up against the guy's mailbox, hoping someone would come by looking for it. A week later, driving by, it was still there, so I kept it because I thought it looked kind of cool. And now it's a piece of clutter, and it's going in here. This is brand new weed killer. I don't use pesticides on my property or herbicides at all because I have a well. So these, they're never going to be used by me. Maybe someone else will use them. Here's some Christmas ornaments. Here's a toolbox underneath there with some things. This is full of the nails and stuff I told you about. Someone might use them. I don't know. But for me, they're just going to sit here and continue to rust. Like, see these? I could probably still use these, but I have a box of, like, I have a 10,000 box of roofing nails. I don't need those. Also, as far as the miscellaneous stuff I was talking about right here, if I do a job, I'm not going to pick out miscellaneous screws. I want them all to be the same if I'm doing any kind of project. I'm good with screws. And here, a whole bunch of random tools, wrenches. You know, somebody will find a use for these, but I have much better tools, so these are going to be donated to a place that's literally going to donate them. I'm not giving them to like a Goodwill or something, because Goodwill's not going to want this stuff. I am going to bring this to a place. It's a transfer station that has a bunch of big rig trailers, and you just put whatever you want in there. The people who run the landfill go in there. If they find something they think is just junk, they throw in the landfill. But otherwise, anyone can go through it and get it for free. They want you to reuse and recycle. That's the whole point of the big rig. Over here is a bunch of other, you know, the tools are still good, but I'm just saying I have better ones. And why would I keep a million copies of the same tool? Oh, that's going to break. Under here is some vintage picture. I don't really want it. Someone might want it. It's in pretty good shape. I'm the kind of person who only keeps ones that are related to old food, if you ever seen my channel. The other ones you saw hanging on the wall, like the ones over here that are food related, like this big pig's hanging up there. There's a cracker commercial or an advertisement. Those are going to go down in my old food opening studio. And this is all going to go where I just said it is. All right. So we did actually clean up a lot in here. Let me show you a little bit of the log splitting process. Oh, I did also realize, over here I realized I have to be very careful with this. The oil tank here, see how down there, how it comes out the bottom? This oil tank, it says it was manufactured in 2016, so this tank hasn't been here very long. See how that's coming out the bottom? If you drop something on that or kick it and you break this off, that entire 275-gallon oil tank is going to spill all over the floor. I learned that from the channel Tank Masters Environmental. Taught me that. The new tank's supposed to be coming out of here. So if you break it off, it doesn't spill all over the floor. Yeah, that's a new oil tank. And whoever installed it didn't do that great of a job, because you see clearly the pipes dip a little bit before they go outside. So there's a little bit of oil sitting in there at all times. It's not ideal, but this tank is pretty new. Only have to replace them like every 20 years. So this thing it has a long life ahead of it. Just want to be careful of that over there, because almost every homeowner's insurance policy does not cover a fuel spill like this. And you see up top the gauge. Something is wrong with this, the whistle on this tank, so it tells the guy filling it to shut it off at 7/8, so I can never completely fill it. This year, since I filled this thing in November, I got the wood stove installed in December, have not used the wood stove in 2 months. I mean, I haven't used the oil furnace in 2 months, so that's going to save me a ton of money. Now that I bought a new chainsaw and I got a log splitter, that's all I need probably for the next many years, so the savings are going to start coming in, especially with dozens of trees down. I don't have a heating bill anymore, so I'm very excited about that. I know you can't see great, but right here, we had so many big logs. I'm about to come out here with the sledgehammer and knock the ones frozen to the ground, bring them over, split them in half, and in my basement, I have an area where they can sit and dry for a couple days. The snow all melts off, they dry up, then they get thrown into the stove. You see, I have a bunch of pallets here. It's snowed, so that's why they're kind of buried. But we went through like a whole cord of firewood here. It was really good. And that pile right there, you see, that is green. That'll be burned next year. So tonight, we're just going to work on these couple more. I have one more wagon right next to me that's fully loaded. We're going to bring that back over to be split. And then next week, this is what we're going to heat the house with. This pile, very nicely seasoned. So this is my first year heating with wood stove, so I did supplement it. I did order 1 cord of actual firewood. It was $325, and we also have probably, I didn't even really have to do it. I have enough seasoned pine to get through the entire winter. Next year, we're going to have more than enough because I'm about to split like 40 cords of it as soon as I get my friend out here to help me process all the trees that fell down. Throw it under a tarp. 40 cords? That's going to last like 6 years. And after like 5 years, that's going to be so seasoned. I don't want it to start rotting, so it's going to be underneath like a 30 by 50 tarp. Massive pile. That's going to be awesome. This right here is my most strenuous hill, getting it back to the house to split it. This hill doesn't seem that steep, but when you're hauling back a couple 100 pounds of firewood, it's kind of hard getting up this hill. Let me show you. I am jamming my feet in really hard to get traction. Pull it up the hill. This is not my heaviest load by far. All right, we got the wagon back. And we can start unloading these pieces of wood. All right, let me show you how good this thing works. So, spacer out. Put the piece of wood in. You use this knob in the back to bring the shock back. I don't always bring it back because if you bring it back, it's more work. I probably don't need the spacer now, but I often use it. Just throw it in there. Pretty helpful. Now, let me show you. This one, you see, it moves a lot faster than the slow speed, but the slow speed has a lot more torque to go through it. Eventually, the high-speed one, certain logs, you just don't have the strength to go through it. All right, that split really nice. Let the shock back a little bit. Take it out. Look at that, nice. And this is a pretty big log, so let's split it one more time. That's why it's not going in all the way. The imperfection in the log. So let's spin it around. Yeah, this one's, we're going to put it in maybe a little different. This log is kind of messed up. This is a little, this isn't even more time consuming than using an axe. These pieces are so big, sometimes you got to hit it so many times to actually get it to go. And also, you're not exhausted and hurting after. This works out really nice. But these are nice seasoned pieces of wood. I like to split them when they're seasoned because when they're green, it seems to be a lot more difficult. At least with pine trees anyways. There we go. And we have a bunch more in the wagon to start splitting. But let me show you some other things I got going on. All right, so I snow blow the main arteries of my trails going into the woods so I can use the garden cart to get more wood back to the house. All right, I wasn't home when this storm last happened. Not too long ago, we got a storm, and it looks like we got like 4 or more inches of sleet. See this stuff on the ground? If I would have snowblowed this immediately, it would have not been a problem, but because I wasn't home and it froze, this is like a solid sheet of like 4 or 5 inches of sleet. I can't get it off, but thankfully it's so hard, I can run wagons right over it. My car doesn't even sink into it driving up the driveway. This is solid, but when it starts melting, it's going to be a pothole mess. Anyways, all my trails going into the woods, well, my main arteries, the garden cart can get down, and this is where I have dozens of wood piles. I'm gonna have help, and then there should be like 100 of these wood piles out here. Whenever they're needed, they go back to the house and they get split. But this stuff you're looking at now is green. This cannot be used until at least next heating season. Another big pile here. But I snow blow the main artery. The garden cart can get down it. The property here is almost 4 acres of land. And I'm going to manage it well as soon as we're done chopping up all this stuff, all the down trees and all the widow makers. We are going to... Oh no, this part here the wagon can't go in. This is not solid where it got stuck in the trees for some reason. At some point we're going to take down this giant white pine because it's going to die. The whole top broke off. And that can be chopped into firewood. It's one really big tree. This tree alone is like an entire heating season, literally. It is. My house isn't that big. It's 740 square feet or so. So you see, I snow blowed all the way out here. Here's a fork. Only the main arteries, I made the trails wide enough so the wagon could get down them. But that's all we need. We can easily carry it out of the other trails to the main artery. I made sure this bridge right here is wide enough for the wagon to safely drive across it. You can't really see the bridge because we currently have like 2 feet of snow on the ground. You don't see that on top of the bridge because it was windy, but it kind of spread out. So there's a little trickling stream underneath this. It's probably frozen now, but sometimes it can gush like crazy. And yeah, I will make a video, probably a time lapse for you guys when we're actually cutting up a lot of trees. You see there's 2 of them leaning over there. They got to be cut up, but just in front of me, there is probably 24 trees just right across the trail. We want to get all those cut up before the growing season so the seedlings all over the floor don't die from not getting sunlight. We want to get that entire mess cleaned up so the forest can start recovering and growing back. Now, a lot of areas have pine trees and Douglas firs eager to grow back, little seedlings everywhere. Certain areas where there was blowdowns, because there was no sunlight before the blowdown, there are no seedlings started. So I'm going to grab a whole bunch of seeds from the maple trees, throw them all over the ground, and hope we get some hardwoods. I don't think I'm going to live on this property for that long, but who knows? If I'm an old man living here, I'll still have some hardwoods to burn. Or if not, a beautiful forest. For probably the next decade, I have enough dead trees and knocked down things. I don't even have to consider cutting down a live tree. We have so many down trees that I'm not burning anything living. I'm not killing any trees. They're already dead and free heating, I estimate, for like a decade, minus the equipment cost, which is much lower than fuel. All right, so here we are in the house. These pieces on the floor, they're here to dry because they come in snow covered, and give it one day, they completely dry off. This was a really stubborn one, so that thing's going to get thrown in their hole when this thing's nice and hot. It is really nice and hot now. What do you think of my fans? I kind of like these things. Look at the optical illusion. That's not spinning slow. That's moving so fast, but the camera doesn't, not seeing it. This triple one was cool. It's from Amazon. This from Amazon, but be wary. I bought a $16 one. It broke immediately. These are much more quality. This is a name brand Eco fan, so that will probably outlive all these other fans. That goes for about $100, while this guy was 30. This guy was 30. This triple one was 50, and these are good because they generate their own power from the heat rising up. Yep, it generates power for the little electric motors. That's pretty cool. This right here is my wood pile. We just open that window, and that's a giant pile out there in front of the garage where I'm splitting it. When this thing runs out, we throw more right in. And that stuff shouldn't get snowed on because the house has like a 3-foot overhang above the garage where that's all stacked. This stuff right here, this thing is a very efficient catalyst stove. So what you see on the floor here is like 2 days worth. That right there will go for about 1 week, depending on how cold it is. Just today, I took a uni bit and I drilled all these holes. I'm hoping that air going in, slowly rising, will make stuff inside there dry out even faster. Because when we get down to the bottom, it has trouble drying. I think the circulation of air will help. This will work out good. Air can pass through there. And also, anything dripping in there, it won't get on the floor because there's a little lip. So puddles can happen. These were a good thing when you have to mess with the fire a long time. This is a pet store bucket for animal feed. Works really good for ashes. Now this stove here, it has a drawer right here. This is very hot, but if you pull it out, it has this bin. You pull the plug and you're supposed to bring it down here. I have yet to use it. I don't think it's very practical. I think it's more practical just to hold the bucket with the glove, shovel it in, you know, a good amount of it, keeping enough hot embers for the fire to catch right back up when you throw more stuff in. And that's been working really good for me. Don't ever have to shut it down. This stove has not shut off in almost a month. It just runs nonstop. Been working out really good heating with wood. Having a lot of fun. I hope today's video was interesting, everyone. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. One thing I did learn this year about wood burning is next year I'm not going to do this stuff where it comes in snow covered. I'm going to have everything pre-split before the next heating season, and it's all going to be underneath a tarp, so it's all completely dry, and so we don't have to dry it like this. Because like this, believe it or not, underneath the bark, unless it sits in here for like a month, there's a little bit of moisture, and that actually does cause creosote to build up inside the chimney. But I talked to the wood stove company, and they said, no, it's not going to get to a level where it would cause a chimney fire unless I didn't clean it for many years. They told me, don't worry about what you're doing. I even bought a CLR log, which you're supposed to put in a wood stove. It says every 2 months. They said, don't even use that because it's not a good idea to use it on a catalytic stove, because it says in the instructions to leave the damper open for 2 weeks, and being a catalytic stove, no, it actually doesn't have a damper. It has a bypass. There is no damper in a catalytic stove. So when you close the bypass, it forces it through the catalyst. So this is basically your damper, but you have to have the bypass open, so you can't use the damper. So yeah, you're not really supposed to use a CLR log on a stove like this, I was told. They said just get it cleaned once a year. That's all. Wood burning's pretty fun. I like it a lot better than the fuel. Maybe I'll get bored with processing wood. Sometimes it is backbreaking, but I get to clean up the woods while being able to do this. The forest will get to grow back healthier. So I think I'm good. There are a couple other things I wanted to mention that I've learned about wood burning. I can't think of them at the moment.